Hello and welcome to the next edition of MX Live. In today's episode we're going to be talking to Ashton Tucker. Hi Ash, thanks for coming.
That's alright, no worries. Thanks for asking me to do it.
You're welcome, mate. Thanks for coming and sitting in the hot seat.
No worries.
So if people don't know who Ashton Tucker is, tell us about yourself. What do you do?
I'm a full-time musician. I've been doing that for about 5 years, and that kind of entails a lot of different things. I do obviously teaching guitar lessons. Most of my income comes from performing, so I do a lot of like sort of weddings and stuff as a bass player, a guitar player, and as a vocalist. Loads of different bands, different genres and stuff, and I also do a little bit of session work, and what else do I do? Oh, songwriting as well. I do songwriting for artists as well, so I've had a little bit of success with that recently, but it's
cool.
It's all right, you know, it's a good career. Wouldn't do anything else.
In the world of Ash then, what does your day-to-day look like? What does talk to us through, like what time you get up, what you do? Like,
so normally what I try and do is I get up in the morning about 7 o'clock. I go to the gym most days when I can, just to give myself an hour away from all of it, you know, get my brain in focus. And then depending on the days, if it's a weekday, I've got the day to just fill in on other various little jobs, and then I'll teach from sort of 3 or 4 o'clock until 7, and then on the weekends that will be like I'll be leaving the house at, I'd always plan for 1 o'clock at the earliest to get to a gig and play, and then with those weekend ones I'll be getting in at probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So but I try and write every day. It doesn't always happen, but I try and write some songs every day, and I fit in sessions with other people when I can.
Are you quite strict with your do you sit down for an hour and write songs, or is it 2 hours?
I try and it really depends. I'm working towards trying to do an hour of practicing the guitar and an hour of songwriting a day.
Okay.
That would be my ideal. I haven't quite achieved it yet. At the minute, it's normally either an hour of playing or an hour of writing, but it's never both, and it's something that I'm sort of actively trying to fit in. But then you got real life to deal with as well. You've got, your washing up's got to be done, and your clothes have got to be cleaned, and
The washing up just tends to annoy me. Like every time I go upstairs, I see the washing up.
Yeah.
Every time I go out to, go out the back garden, I see the washing up.
Yeah.
So you've got to just do it.
Well, I live with my landlady as well, so it's one of those. She's great.
You don't want to wind her up,
but I don't want to wind her up. So if I see it, 9 times out of 10, I'll try and get it done.
I think that's a good thing though. For like in terms of like mental, I think it's good to do that. So I don't think it's great to let it to ignore it, because I think it becomes worse and it's on your mind.
I become totally unorganised when I'm around mess.
Yeah.
I've really noticed it. Like in fact, funnily talking about this, I had a conversation with a YouTuber I used to really enjoy when I was at university, a guy called Andy Offling, who he has this band called Lowercase Noises. It's like a lot of ambient stuff.
Yeah. And
I asked him a question about like, how'd you get into the mood for writing this stuff? And the first thing he said was, I can't do anything until my room is clean, which was really funny, because I'm exactly the same. If I cannot work in a dirty environment or unclean, I need it to be.
I'm probably the same, mate. To be honest,
clear.
Like, if you've got like a cluttered space or like where you're working or trying to write stuff, I just find it like it's just annoying, isn't it? If you've got loads of stuff around you want to try and do things, you can't move because you're at a desk and you've got so much stuff on the desk, you can't put stuff down, or you can't.
Yeah, that's why session work is actually a little bit of a battle, because I do stuff at home. I do like guitar sessions from home.
Yeah.
And the irony is, when that's going in full force, it'll be like switching guitars all the time, putting stuff off to the side, switching pedals, stuff's on the desk,
so
like
there's
paper,
chaotic,
and it is chaotic, and like
not organised chaos.
Yeah, but by the end of the day, it's a massive mess. But you've got something. Funnily enough, if I did do a session and then I looked at my desk and it was clean, I'd think, I could probably do that better. Yeah. So it's funny how that works.
I mean, growing up for you, Ash, what was school life like? What did you?
School was great. I grew up in a small town outside of Bristol called Nailsea.
Yeah.
There's like 2 neighbouring towns, so there's Nailsea and there's Backwell, and both of them have schools. So I grew up in Nailsea, but I actually went to Backwell Secondary School. They had a great music programme there, really awesome, teachers for supporting all of that. Although I don't know whether I really started getting into music until I was probably I think I was 14 when I started playing the guitar.
Okay.
And I did sort of a year of that, and just kind of did it because my dad was a guitar player.
So your dad sort of inspired you to pick the guitar up?
I guess so. Yeah. He used to. My earliest memories were him playing. Like, he had this really cool. I've still got it. He's got this '79 Ash Fender Stratocaster. No, that's not where my name come from. It's not.
He's looking at the guitar. What
yeah,
can I call
the guitar was made out of Swan Beach, but it's we still got it in the house. But I used to walk
could have
past.
been Alder.
Maybe, I could have been Alder Tucker.
Mahogany.
That's such a guitaristy joke.
No one else will get that.
No. But yeah, so we did that, and he would play, like, he was really into like his classic rock and all that. Deep Purple. He's a huge Deep Purple fan, and he liked Zeppelin, and he really got me into the Live and Dangerous Thin Lizzy record.
Oh yeah.
The live record that isn't live. But it's and when I was learning to play guitar, if anyone doesn't know anything about Thin Lizzy, there's a lot of like dual guitar solos on Thin Lizzy stuff,
like harmonised stuff, isn't it?
Harmonised guitar solos. So when I got sort of good enough to do it, he would learn like one part of it, and I would learn the other part of it. And I still can remember. We still do it sometimes if he's brave enough to pick up the guitar. We'll harmonise the solo to Emerald, which is a Thin Lizzy song, and I used to do that a lot when I was a kid. But he was also into like James Taylor and Hootie and the Blowfish and a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think songs were a big thing growing up. So I've always been more of a song guy.
That's what I was going to say. Did your dad write songs? Is that what he got into?
He didn't write songs. He was a guitar player, but he's always been into like just song-based stuff. He does like instrumental things, but I've noticed, depending on how instrumental it is, patience can waver quite quickly, which mine does as well. I quite openly say, like, I can respect it. I'm not really much of a muso, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
I like songs. I like hearing words and
like
meanings.
Stories.
Yeah, that's where I sort of lay.
I always find the best songs to me, like, written, or they tell a story.
Yeah,
there is a
well,
story
it's
to
why
the lyrics,
I got into like country music and things like that, because it is the chord structures are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
They don't change it very much, but it's what the singer's saying, or and blues music as well. Like it's very emotive guitar playing.
Yeah.
It's not particularly speedy or technical, but it's more in the vibrato and the choice of notes and things like that. But yeah, so Dad got me into it, and then after playing for about 2 years, he used to go to this thing called the IGF, or the International Guitar Festival.
Yeah.
Which they did at the time they did it at Bath Spa, and it was like a summer camp where you'd go for a week. You'd have lessons during the day for like school hours, so 5 or 6 hours. They did it during the summer holidays.
Yeah. And
then in the evening they'd have a gig on, and they'd have some like wicked gigs. They had like Guthrie Govan on there one year, and Jamiroquai did master classes and things like that. And then after that they'd have a jam night in the evening where everyone would get up and play, and then you'd have a gig at the end of the week.
Was Guthrie up with that? Was he? Like, was he jamming with you guys?
Yeah, he didn't. I don't know whether he did that. I can't remember. He probably did, because normally they were hanging out for a while. They would, they would stick around and have a drink, because a lot of the teachers were industry professionals who still to this day are teaching at like the music schools in, so. Yeah. And a few of them, I'm still friends with them today. I met so many people, and it's funny, as I go through life, when I went to uni in Manchester, I met 3 or 4 people who had actually been on that course the same time as I'd been on it, and we'd never met or connected, but we'd all done it. And it's quite a common thing. I'll come across people now where like, oh, did you go to IGF? Oh yeah, I did. And so that was cool, and that was my first experience of being around people where you kind of realised, oh, you can do it as a living, because where I grew up, my town was so small. I wasn't even the best guitar player in my town or in my year or anything like that. I was probably.
I didn't know there was a ranking for like the best guitar player.
No. But you know what I mean. When you're that age, you are
compare yourself to others.
Yeah, you do. You rank and stuff, and I was just sort of like, I didn't see anyone who did it for a job. Really, I didn't think it was a bit of a pipe dream. But then I went to that thing and saw people who literally their job was, being musicians full time, and that was when I sort of decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this for my job.
I mean, after school, then what did you do after school when you sort of left school? Did you go off to college? Or?
I was going to have a year off, and then about 2 weeks before term ended, I got told by the music teachers in my school, they were like, "Oh, there's this music school you can go to," and I knew about all the colleges that were about, but I didn't really want to go to any of those. I'd also gone to auditions for a couple of them, and they looked great, but the audition process wasn't very challenging, which made me kind of maybe wonder about it.
Yeah.
And then they found out about this conservatoire in Manchester that had just started doing a pop course, and the audition process for that was really, really hard. That was, I had to present 3 pieces. I had to sight read to music on the audition, which I couldn't do, and know and have proven equivalence of grade 5 theory and stuff in that audition. It was really hard. I probably messed most of the audition up, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up getting in on that on something called a reserve place, which, if you don't know what that is, basically it means they've already allotted all of the places for the course, but they still want you to come in case anybody drops out or doesn't take their place.
Yeah.
And then, as it happened, about a month before we were set to go, I didn't even think I was going. I got a call from the course director, and he was like, "We've had a dropout. Would you come and study?"
So did you start making ever plans about what you were going to do, or
I don't know really. I think at that age, at 18, I was still kind of I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do music. I didn't really know how I was going to go about it.
Apart from the thing at the IGF, was there a point where you went, "I can actually do this full time"? Was there a point where there's sort of a light bulb moment where you went, "I really can do this. If I focus on it, I can do this, make this a full time living"?
Maybe when I was 20, maybe 24.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it's not. I sort of shot myself in the foot a little bit, because for years I had the mindset, and I don't mean any disrespect at all to anybody, I did not want to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And I honestly thought being a teacher was like tapping out, giving up. It was like that thing of if I'm teaching, then I always knew I would become a teacher, but I thought I would do it after my career had sort of had its height, and then I'd come back and then teach.
Yeah.
So I did gigging full time after I left uni for about 3 or 4 years, and respect to people who can survive off of that, because it is hard. It looks like a lot of money when you're looking at it in front of you per gig.
Do you think it's when you say hard, do you think it's just draining on the body as well, mentally as well?
Yeah, you just can't,
I'd love to perform every day of the week.
Yeah.
But I think that's me just saying that, not really thinking about it, because physically doing that every day of the week is just
it's physically knackering.
You get back you leave it say 5 o'clock in the afternoon, in the afternoon. If you got to go further afield, you might leave even earlier in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get back at depending on the gig, you're going to finish at 12 or 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
You're going to be getting back at the early hours of the morning.
Man, in some gigs I was lucky if we even got fed in the, you think it's a 12-hour day.
Yeah.
If you're expected to turn up at the sound check for 4 o'clock and you're not finishing until 12.
Yeah.
Sometimes you turn up on a gig and luckily I work for some bands now who they have it in their contracts when they sign up with people, where it's we have to have a hot meal provided for us.
Okay.
But sometimes before that you'd turn up for a gig and all you'd get given was a packet of crisps, and if you hadn't prepared food or anything, you'd not eat for 6 or 7 hours. So it was a real.
It's funny how that's sort of not really thought about, isn't it? When you get booked for things, people tend not to think about.
Well, you're not without. You're not their priority. No. Their priority is the event going down well. You're there. And I get that, but it's also I do wish there was a bit more understanding with it. And some people are lovely about it as well. But yeah, so it's hard. It's a really, really tough. It's a tough lifestyle. But no, I didn't think it was a possibility when I was in uni, and uni was tough as well. I'll admit I nearly quit music in university.
Was that because of the workload, or?
It was so it was more like a self-confidence thing, I think, but it was because I'd been put in on a reserve place. I spent a large part of uni believing that I wasn't good enough to be there in the first place. So everyone else was going out and drinking and having fun and going nuts, and I was like, I need to catch up because I'm going to be out of it next week if they find out. There's always this thing as well, I think, among musicians where you think someone's going to find you out. Have you ever had that?
Yeah.
Like you think, God, somebody's going to realise that.
There's a name for that, isn't there? It's like where you feel like a fraud.
Yeah.
Like you always question yourself and think, am I actually capable and qualified enough to do this job?
Yeah.
There's a name for it. I can't remember what it's called.
I totally had that.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
totally had that at university. I was like, are they going to find out that I'm not good enough to be in this?
But it's a real
place?
thing, and it's like it's not just you. There'll be, I've had that before. Where you think, Jesus, like, am I good enough to do this or run this idea, or have I got enough qualifications for that, or?
Yeah, well, I didn't have any grades as well. I had no, which now as I get older, they're not really much of a, to be honest, even the bit of paper for the degree is a bit useless to me at the minute.
Yeah.
Not saying that university wasn't useful, it was great.
Do you think it's more like what you learn, the experience, what you learn, as opposed to the bit of paper you get at the end?
100%. It's what you put into it. You get out what you put in with those courses, and it's about the people you meet. And getting involved with a scene and seeing people do it. That's what those courses are about. They're not about the bit of paper. No. But yeah, and so I struggled. I would just sit and I would practice for days on end, and every week felt like I was going to get kicked out. So I just kept working, and I ended up really making myself.
The reality probably was,
yeah,
they weren't going to kick you out. You're actually doing fine.
No,
but in your head.
No, but I think the teachers as well, I think the people in charge, I think they wanted that. I think they wanted to make you feel that way, which to be honest may not be healthy.
Make you pull your socks up, sort of thing.
Yeah, but I think they wanted to scare you a bit. They wanted you to feel a bit like that. And some people just didn't react to it. Some people just didn't get involved.
Did that create a lot of stress for you? Or?
Yeah, I'm quite a sensitive person. I'm not a boisterous person. I'm also not, although my job is professionally showing off, I'm not really an outward person. I'm very, what's the word? Introverted. Yeah. I'm very, very introverted. And yeah, like my brain goes to funny places. So I think, we spoke about this briefly, but when I was at university in my third year, just when everyone was getting all the gigs and stuff, some people were getting some really cool shows. Somebody got on X Factor, like miming for, like, people were getting TV gigs, and I noticed all the people that were getting hired, not only were they great players, but they were quite like model looking people.
Yeah.
And that is a thing in the music industry. It is a very superficial thing. So I actually stopped eating for a few months towards the end of the course.
What was the mind thought behind that then, with the not eating?
Well, it was kind of like,
you wanted to lose weight and look like them, sort of thing.
Yeah, I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to be like deemed attractive enough to get the gigs, because I think my headspace was like, it doesn't matter. First of all, I'm not I'm not a great musician. I'm not a great player. So if I'm already not a great player and I also don't look right, then what chance have I got? So I was like, I might as well try and improve and I'm not, it probably is deep rooted because I was the ginger chubby kid at school, so I've always,
Same as me, mate.
Yeah,
I was that at school.
Yeah, so you hold on.
Did you get bullied at school? Or?
Yeah, a lot.
You did, yeah.
Playing the guitar actually just, somebody said to me the other week, they were like, I was relaying this story, and they were like, oh, so then they deemed you, were you suddenly cool, like, because you play guitar? And I was like, not really, they just kind of left me alone. Yeah. They were like, oh, you're all right, like, we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, uni, and for me, in my head, it was win-win. It was like, I don't eat, so I can spend the money that I don't spend on food on, guitar equipment, and I can...
Did you get ill? You must have got ill.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah, very.
Do you think it was an eating disorder, or...?
I've never thought of it as that, because I was choosing it, I suppose. I don't know, maybe it was. I've never really thought about it. When you're so focused as well on that project, because we had an end of term project, it was the third year and stuff, and you're so focused on everything, you kind of forget, like still to this day, and I try and watch it now and I really do notice, but if I'm really working on something, it's really common for me to forget to eat. you know. And it's not like I'm intending not to eat.
It's so sort of involved in the.
I'm not thinking about what my stomach's telling me.
No.
It's not anything to do with that. I just don't, you know, I just don't think about it, and then it'll be, you know, 7 o'clock at night, and I'll go, oh man, I haven't eaten anything.
The opposite of that is like, you know, when you're bored and stuff, you've got nothing to do, you tend to eat, don't you?
Yeah.
That's why people overeat sometimes. I think it's because they're just like, they're not hungry, but they're like, I'm guilty of it. I'm bored. I've got nothing on my mind. Oh, I'll eat something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And now, you know, now I've got a handle on it. But yeah, at the time it was.
How long did that last for then? Was there a point where you went, this is a real problem, or did you sort of...
So a wake-up call I did have was I walked into a rehearsal one week. We used to have weekly rehearsals at Blueprint Studios in Manchester. And we would... I walked into a rehearsal, and one of the teachers, a drum teacher, a guy called Brian, he actually just kind of took me aside and went, are you all right? Because you look, you know, you're looking a bit ill. And my brain was in this place where I kind of got not angry at him, but I just didn't listen because I thought he was trying to throw me off. I thought I was getting somewhere, and I thought they were trying to stop me, you know. So I was like, oh, someone's noticed I'm thinner. I'm losing weight. That's great, you know.
Yeah.
When really he was trying to look out for me. He was doing his pastoral care thing that he should have been doing as a teacher. So I really appreciate that, because then I started to maybe think about it, and yeah, it probably lasted me about maybe 3 months, 3 to 6 months or something like that off the end of the course. And then when the course ended, and I think this is really common for uni students now, I see it so much, then I had my proper like breakdown. That was like the point where it just got, you know, couldn't deal with it, couldn't deal with life or anything like that, because you go from having this big project
to nothing,
to absolutely nothing. And
I feel it's like when you come off a tour or something, like when you come back, you
want to be doing something.
Out to walking the dog.
Yeah, and there's a beauty in that now. You do see actually, like, real life is actually really, really great, like when it's chill like that, but you do have to have an element of routine with it to keep yourself going. But yeah, I left the course, I left uni, I had to move back home because I didn't have a job, so I couldn't afford to stay in Manchester.
Yep.
And then I had hit my sort of major breakdown, which was, you know, it was waking up every day in tears.
Oh wow.
And then going back to sleep because I did.
Did you know why that was, or was it just because
it was a combination of different issues, which I won't really go into.
No, okay,
but it was. I just was sad, felt like a failure, felt like I'd almost like cheated at life a little bit, because everyone else had normal jobs that were paying bills. But
you did pass the course, didn't you?
I got a 2-1, and that was great, but you just went back to nothing, and I was, you know, a load of issues that I hadn't faced while I was at university finally just came to a head. And yeah, I remember when I mean, this is a podcast about mental health and stuff, so I hope it's not too vulgar to talk about medication and stuff like that.
No, it's fine, mate.
But when I was, I got to a point, really, whatever you think about antidepressants and things like that, when I finally went on them, I needed them, because I was, like I say, it was literally wake up,
Do you
cry
remember which
day.
Antidepressants you were on? Do you remember?
I don't actually.
Because there's so many different ones. Isn't
there? I don't remember. I remember when I first had to take them was quite scary. I remember looking at this pill in my hand, and and my mum was like, "Why don't you just take the pill?" And I went, because the way you do with antidepressants.
Failure, isn't it?
Well, no, it's not failure. It's a long-term commitment. Antidepressants, you have to take them for 6 months.
Yeah, you can't just come off them.
You can't just come off them.
No.
So I looked at it in my hand for about 20 minutes and was just like, do I really want to commit to this for 6 months, knowing this might make me worse? But honestly, they saved my life, because I was in such a state, and then what they did was they sort of compress you, so you don't feel this. You don't get super happy, but you don't get super low either. So it was just enough to keep me on a level to get myself back on track.
And how long did that period last, do you think?
I think, I stayed on them for the 6 months, and then I stopped, and then I got lucky in finding the job that I'm in now, and doing gigs and stuff. Had a couple of other turbulent things happen, but never went back on them after that.
Okay.
Managed to find sort of natural fixes like exercise and.
I was going to say, what was the outlet for you to get back into life, sort of thing? What was it?
Definitely exercise.
Yeah.
I mean, it helped finding a job that meant I could make money from playing music. Because I ended up joining up with a friend in his band who ran an agency, and that really gave me sort of purpose.
Yeah.
And I still, to this day, I don't know if he'll watch this, but probably better not, because he'll tease me forever for saying this probably. But I am so grateful for finding him when I did find him, because he saved my life. He gave me something to work for, and made me realise that, oh no, I am good enough to do this for a living, and have done it ever since. But yeah, that was the kind of turning point. And then I found sort of exercise as well really just helped level it all out, because
is that gym exercise or anything?
Yeah, the gym. Yeah. I've never been I don't like competing.
No.
It's probably why I've struggled a little bit with that university environment, because it was very competitive.
Yeah.
I like the gym because the only person I'm competing against is me. I'm not a huge fan of competitive sports. I have done them, but I like the gym because I can just put my headphones in. The only person I'm trying to beat is myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do that as much as I can now, 3 or 4 to 5 times a week if I can. And
that's good. I mean, I do the same, and
yeah,
the gym's helped me massively. Like, it's a focus in the morning when I get up early, because there's this I think there's this. People think that musicians get up in midday, crawl out of bed.
I mean, I used to do that.
Yeah,
I used to do that
sit in our pajamas.
I used to do it at university.
Grab a guitar.
Yeah, when I was drinking as well, I used to do that all the time.
Yeah.
I don't drink anymore, which also I think is probably a big help. I quit drinking a year ago.
Yeah.
That was actually a big part of my depression. I would drink it. I drank at university for a while, and it's never really worked for me. So I would like to just kind of say, I think everyone should kind of look at their drinking. If you honestly do drinking for fun, and you have a laugh, and you can have a couple of pints and then stop or whatever, and it's fun for you.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. If I could be that guy, I totally would.
Yep.
That's but the way I always work is drink always releases my thoughts a little bit. I like to think when I'm level and I'm not drinking, I have a fence around my thoughts. The minute I start drinking, the fence starts to wobble, and then after I've had 2 or 3 pints, all of those sort of intrusive thoughts get out, and they sort of really. And I used to drink to fit in.
Yeah.
Which didn't really work. So now, having gotten to the age where I just sort of said, oh, it's all right not to drink, and I like getting up early in the morning. I like getting up at 7 o'clock and feeling fresh and going, right, what we're doing today.
Yeah.
As opposed to the getting up at 1 o'clock and still not wanting to get up when you wake up at 1 o'clock.
I think it's important, for any job that you're in, it doesn't matter if you're a musician or whatever, to have a routine. As you said, get up 7, you might have some breakfast, give it an hour, then go to the gym for an hour.
Yeah. Come
back, maybe start writing a hook of a song or whatever.
Yeah.
Or for me, start planning lessons for the day, make plans for what I'm going to do for the week. I think it's good to have stuff planned in and know what you're doing. For me, the most scary thing for me is when I got a day of doing nothing.
Right.
I worry about that, because when I got a day of doing nothing, I sort of panic about.
You have to put something in. I had that yesterday actually.
Yeah.
I had exactly the same thing. I had to wait in for a parcel, and it was God, I felt so, because I wanted to go out and do something, but you can't because you're waiting in for this parcel.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think it ended up turning up until about 4:15.
Do you think that's a self-employed sort of mindset? Because I do. I think it's I feel like I should be working all the time when you're self-employed, because if you don't work, you don't get any money or you don't get paid.
And that is the scary thing. If you don't put the stuff in, you could just not work for ages.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't have gigs and stuff, you get really. Yeah, you get down if you do nothing for days and days on end. It's funny the little thoughts you get. I want to ask you about this. When you go out and you get the choice, when you do get some free time, and you go out and do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Do you go to gigs?
No. Not
No, me neither. But I do. And I'm trying to get better at it, and I'm trying to do it. But I find this really interesting because that's such a common thing for other musician friends that I've got, and the reason why is really interesting. So how come you don't go to gigs?
I don't know. Really, I mean, if I want to do something, sometimes it's like a money thing, like to go and watch somebody I really like. Sometimes ticket prices are hiking up a lot recently.
Yeah.
So you pay quite a bit of a wedge to go and watch something.
Uh-huh.
I'd rather do something for free or go on a bike ride or something, just, get out with the dogs or with the wife.
Sure.
So that's maybe part of it, is a sort of you've got to pay quite a bit of money. But the other part of it is actually, I end up sitting in the crowd and going, I want to be up there playing.
Yeah.
I want to be doing that.
Yeah, and that's kind of the big thing. That's the really funny thing. So, I hate talking about this. I hate saying this out loud because it's so self-indulgent and it's ridiculous. It's like even I hear myself say it and go, that's mad.
Yeah.
But I've heard it from so many other people, so I've sort of leveled it. It's fine. But that's where my mind goes. You go and see a gig and you go, especially if it's a cover band, you go one of two ways. You either go and see them and they're not that great, and you go, yeah, you do that. You go, I could do that better, which is so arrogant, but that's where your brain goes. And then you get depressed because you're not the one up there.
Yeah.
Or you go and see them and they're amazing, and then you're like, I want to be playing in that band. I don't want to be watching. I'm getting better with original bands because with original acts and stuff, they intended it to be that way, and I still very much. That's partly why I got into original music, is that I genuinely believe everybody's sound is their own and nobody makes the same thing. If you wrote something, it would sound completely different to the way that I would write it, but you intend it that way, and that's the beauty of your art and my art and everybody else's art. So when you go see an original band, I get less like that because I'm viewing their art, I'm viewing how they intended it, and I couldn't have come to the same thing.
Yeah.
It's why I also like co-writing with people, because you end up creating stuff that you would have never created alone. But yeah, it's really funny because I've spoken to 3 or 4 people about the same subject, and they just go, oh, going out to see live music is the last thing I want to do when I've got free time.
So what would you do on your time off then? What would you try and fill it with? What works for you?
Do you know what? I'm out a lot during the day. I'm not actually really much of an evening person. I'm working on that. But I just love going for a coffee with mates. I'm not really a club person because when I go out, I'm actively out with the people that I want to be with, and I want to hear what's going on with them. I spend so much time. You probably know what it's like when people think you've got a cool job. People always want to know what you're doing, and I'm so uninterested in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Not that I don't love it. I love it.
I don't know about you, but I divert the conversation very quickly.
Go on.
What do you do for a job? And I say, I'm a musician. Oh, that's really cool. How do you get? And I get away from it quite quickly because I hate talking about myself. Or talking about what you do.
I'm totally the same.
I'm more interested in finding out about the person and what I've not met them before, what they do, and I'm more interested in that than finding out. But they're just being friendly and just trying to find out what you do, and they find it very interesting because it's something not everybody does it. But generally, I don't know about you, I try and divert off the conversation as quick as possible.
I get really interested in. It's funny actually. I've surprised myself with how interested I get in people's office jobs and things like that because they're so. One of my best friends, she works, or doesn't anymore, but she used to work for Microsoft, and to me that is the most interesting. What cool job! I'm just my dad worked in computers as well. My dad worked for Hewlett Packard for a few years, and I find all that really interesting, and I always want to talk to that. But every time you say I'm a musician, do
you think that's because that's perceived as not the norm, or that's a proper job, that's a 9-to-5 job, or do you feel like we're interested in it because it's not what it's the opposite compared opposite what we do?
I'm totally not a tech head either. I wasn't very good at science and maths and things like that at school, so it's so completely out of my camp. So when I see somebody else doing it, I'm
okay. So thanks, Ash. Thanks for coming along to the MX Live.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
I said I hope to catch you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch more sort of vlogs like this. And if you'd like to come on the show, just let me know. Send me a message, and we can book you in. And you can come out for me for a drive. You get to enjoy the drive, and I interview you and find out all about your life.
It is a very nice drive as well.
Thanks very much. See you soon. Cheers.